Hello and welcome to another episode of The Lion's Den. My name's Toby Bennett and today I am going to be talking about the International Team Tournament, which is a bit of a lead on from the episode from last week. So if you haven't watched last week's episode, give that a watch quickly and then you can come back and watch this one because it'll make a lot more sense. So essentially it was the flagship teams tournament event in the UK. It was a little bit different because obviously currently as I'm talking, the WTC is undergoing being played, which did mean that a good chunk of very experienced players weren't at the last ITT, which was nice and interesting in terms of like potentially opening up who the winners might be, but also giving teams that don't have a whole raft of international players in their team that opportunity to really step up and push. So it was a good one that we were really targeting because at this point we don't have any international players in our team. And we were really keen to sort of take this one as a good target to see how we could do. So my role was to blunt. If you want to hear more about sort of how I think Dark Angels should play in teams, obviously the last video is the most useful. I was taking the matchups that no one really wanted. So you're going to see that I had Death Guard quite a lot over the weekend. I was regularly first defender, so I was given the option of usually their best two lists or the two lists that they thought were most likely to perform into me. And then I would have to pick one of those, or my captain would pick for me based on the matrix scores to eliminate the matchup that we thought would be worst for the rest of the team. And then from that, we as a team finished 4 wins and 1 loss. We took 6th, and massive well done to Carnage first team, who, funnily enough, were also our loss. But they won the whole tournament in quite handy style, with quite a tough run as well, I think, between having Redacted round 1, who are a great team, Try Hard A's in round 3. I'm not sure who they had round 2. But then having us and then Mind Goblins and then followed up by Team Sigil, who I think had some Mercs in as well that were very good, very talented players. So really interesting run. And kind of impressive that they managed to do that, but also really pleased with how we got on. We ended up having the 3rd highest strength of schedule, which is sort of based on where your opponents finish, which obviously Carnage would have certainly helped in the tournament. So really, really pleased with that. But it was a bit of a mixed weekend for me personally with Dark Angels. As an event, it was fantastic, and I absolutely loved every minute of it. And all of my opponents were phenomenal people, and I'll be giving personal shout-outs as we go through. But as a Dark Angels player, it was a little bit disheartening because I just really saw how tough we have it right now. And how if we get sort of the more difficult matchups in this meta, how kind of miserable is probably the wrong word because it was still really fun games, but like how difficult it is to kind of push and feel like you're at all relevant. So that was a difficult one, but I'm going to go through every round and sort of break down how we did and why we did it, which will hopefully help you in teams going forward, but also improve your singles play because I'll go through sort of a blow-by-blow account of how I was playing my games too. So without further ado, round 1, which you do get early, so we had got prep time for this, as had the opposing team. It was our good friends 6++ and Megon, and so 6++, if you don't subscribe to the channel, go and check them out. They are fantastic. I think they've also just done their own ITT review video with Chris Tull, Ben Pearce and Harley Scully, who are all fantastic individuals as well, and also very talented players. We were against, I don't know if they do it like a first, seconds and thirds. I think they do, and I think 6++ and Megon are their second team, with 6++ Alfarius being their best team. And I was up against the lovely Jack Doddy, playing Deathlord's Chosen Death Guard. It's an interesting list for sure, and I think when they were doing their review, they were like, it's like Jack to play something weird, which is obviously, you don't see Deathlord's Chosen that much. I think disgustingly resilient. Big shout out to Aiden and Dave for them for their work with sort of how good Death Guard are at the moment as well, and how much they support that community. But Deathlord's Chosen is it's the Terminator detachment. So it was definitely an interesting one. It was Mortarion, 10 Blight Lords with a Lord of Virulence, 2-3-man Death Shroud with Lords of Contagion. I can't remember if there was a third unit of Death Shroud in there. I feel like there probably was, but maybe maybe I'm forgetting. Then there was 220 Poxwalker Blobs, one with Typhus. There was another Death Shroud, and they had a Lord of Virulence with them. But they didn't start in reserve, which did really surprise me. And then there was another 10 Poxwalkers alongside Mortarion. So super skinny on number of units. I think it was literally 8 units, but they were all hellishly survivable. And because Typhus gives the Terminator keyword to that 20-man Poxwalker blob, they can do up to 6 mortals to you on the charge on 2s. So very, very tasty little unit. And overall, it was a very interesting army. And I wasn't really sure how I'd do into it. And I think for the most part, we weren't really sure how we'd do into it. So we just took it off the table as this method, just to kind of make sure that we didn't have to worry about kind of an unknown. And obviously Death Guard just are flat extremely good at the moment. So even if a list is, and I'm not saying this, but even if a list is a little bit subpar, the raw power of the data sheets can make up for that. So we were playing on Terraform on Sweeping Engagement. And Jack he forward deployed one of his big 20-mans. One was hiding back. Obviously, Typhus can't infiltrate, so he was sort of chilling at the back a little bit. There was Mortarion in the middle, a couple of units of Terminators, and then everything else, the 1,000 points, was in Deep Strike, ready to come down and wreak havoc. So that's the 10 Blight Lords. 2 of the Lord of Contagion units, and I think that's it. It just seemed like a hell of a lot, but yeah, it was like 1,000 points in Deep Strike, ready to come down and try and ruin my day. But there was nothing like the 3 heavy blight drones, which are obviously nightmarish for Dark Angels. There weren't any lethal hits, melters out of Mephitic Blight Haulers. There wasn't any of that. So that was super positive to me. But it was a lot of 2-up, 4-ups, toughness 7 infantry. I've not actually done my list. I will have to put it in the description. Just remember that I've not posted my list. But it was Wrath of the Rock with 15 Death Ring Knights. And I think I'd made a couple of changes with it. So like Ancient Weapons was now on a judi with some Blade Guard, only 3 Blade Guard. And I also had brought in a Vindicator just for that ranged and sort of toughness 7 murdering potential. Which the fact that I've remembered right now about the list probably implies where that toughness 7 murdering potential comes in. So I started with 1 unit of Deathwing Knights in reserve and the Vindicator. So Vindicator doesn't come on until turn 3, which was interesting because I thought I was going to have to leverage it early. But Jack goes first. He gets a 20 blob into position. He gets Typhus going forward, and sort of goes, well, you're not going to kill 20 Poxwalkers in shooting when you can't see them that much. And I was like, yeah, no, that is more than fair. So I then draw Marked for Death and Cull the Horde turn 1. I'm like, okay, interesting. I've got to go and kill that 21 Poxwalker blob on your expansion. Let's go try. So they'd advanced there, so they hadn't terraformed, which was quite handy. But then I got it, so my Vanguard vets were ready to go and sort of hit them in combat. I know that they kind of like average kill about 10, maybe a few more, especially with Oath. And then I got my Intercessors to pop out because there was no like range threat that I had to worry about, because Mortarion is like, I think max like 18, so there wasn't any problems of my backfield unit sort of being smushed. So pump a load of shots in, put the Poxwalkers down to 7 remaining, and then go for my 4-inch charge. and fail it. So I re-roll it and fail it. And at that point, I'm like, okay, goodness me, that's really, really bad news for me. But what I do, because obviously Azrael's given me that extra CP, I was like, well, I'll keep these until the end of your turn, and I'll discard them if I don't score them, knowing full well I'm not going to score them. In Jack's turn 2, he sort of starts putting stuff forward, brings in some Death Shroud to deal with my Vanguard Vets that were about to charge his Poxwalkers. And I was kind of really... in my first turn, I'd gone, right, okay, you've not got the board domination, so I'm going to go for that board domination early with my cheap throwaway units. So I had like my Combi Lieutenant forward and holding an objective. I had my Scouts holding an objective. So he looked to try and shoot the Scouts. Looked to move the Poxwalkers up to go and deal with the Combi Lieutenant, who survived like an absolute Chad against Typhus's like special finger. Yes, I'm going to call it a special finger. And then I was like, okay, cool. He's not shot the Vanguard Vets with a Death Shroud because he wants to make that 6-inch charge, more than valid. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now I probably lose the Vanguard Vets. The Scouts probably lose a couple of guys. I probably then lose some dudes to the... I lose some of my... what are they called? The Combi Lieutenant to the charge. And I'm like, that's fine. None of that is a disaster. I think I can stomach that. I just have to be aware of where he's coming in, and I can rapid ingress my Deathwing Knights just by their teleport homer, and I can string them across and hold multiple objectives with them, which is what I did. So that was quite tasty. And at that point, the Typhus went in, managed to get a sort of a shortish charge off, which then allowed him to do only a few mortal wounds because not everyone was getting an engagement. So he was only rolling like 5 or 6 dice, but it's on 2s, so like a lot. I still took about 5 mortal wounds, but then my Deathwing Knights popped their Watcher. Then I promptly did lose the poor old Combi Lieutenant to Typhus, but more importantly, the 6-inch charge from the Death Shroud rolled a 5. Re-rolled it. Rolled a 5. I Leonin aggressioned with my Vanguard Vets into the unit of Poxwalkers that was oathed and heavily depleted, and was able to pick them up. So just cut through them with those Vanguard Vets. And not only did that mean I secured another primary point for my turn 2, I also got both of my secondaries in my turn 1. So I got Cull the Horde and I got Mark for Death because that was my gamma target. So overall, my Deathwing Knights, because the way that they were like stretched out, only like a couple of them got to fight into the Poxwalkers. So that was absolutely fine. Just killed a couple of Poxwalkers, cracked on with my life. Ended up, I think, falling them back so I could start shooting at that Poxwalker blob. And then pushed up with some Vanguard Vets to try and screen, because I knew that he would sort of be struggling with contagioning me, which was kind of the entire aim, just to like leverage the fact that he didn't have that many units. At that point, I was able to sort of put everything into Typhus and his Poxwalker blob, and it was by a gnat's ball hair that I managed to get it, because Typhus just rolled saves, like, and there were Fiona pains, everything like that, just rolling so hot, and I rolled really, really poorly. But then up steps Azrael, where Typhus has got his 6 wounds, and there's a couple of Poxwalkers left. Azrael gets 2 sustained hits. Azrael wounds with everything, and he gets 3 6s. So we go straight through to Feel No Pains on the Poxwalkers, and they all failed. So I was able to get those Poxwalkers down, and then because obviously devs are done at the end of the combat, the 6 damage was allocated to Typhus. He didn't get that save, and he died, and it was so clutch because I had nothing else to go into him at that point. and it wasn't looking good. So I got a little bit lucky there, but that was very, very good news. So from there, it became a little bit more of a how do I kind of push up and deal with the big blob of Terminators, because he rapid ingressed his 10-man Blight Lords just in front of Azrael and his friends, and he went for him. So his turn 3, he went for my scouts in the middle with his Death Shroud. He went for my Vanguard vets that I'd sort of run forward so that they could try and screen the Lords of Contagion, which they did actually really admirably do. And the Blight Lords crashed into my Dreadnought, which I'd sort of strategically put so that they would have to charge into him, which actually worked out really, really well. And I was damn pleased with that. So that was a cheeky one. I was able to leverage AOC there because he'd gone for -1 to hit in Contagion rather than -1 to my save, which I didn't fully understand, because like if you've only got 8 units, it's not like I'm engaging multiple units a turn like meaningfully. So I'll always just oath the one that I want to kill and then just go like and kill some of the others. So yeah. I think that was a slight mistake, but you know, I also understand the logic behind it. So Blight Lords go in and they put the Dreadnought down to like 2 wounds. Dreadnought survives though, yay! Dreadnought runs away, and at that point, up steps the Vindicator, coming in from reserve, and just picks up 6 Blight Lords as if they were nothing. I rolled extremely hot on damage, and Jack rolled extremely poorly on saves. The Vindicator was incredible. It just slaughtered the unit, which left basically none left for Azrael and the Blade Guard to finish off, with very little sort of coming at me after that. So I was like, cool, this is all good. It's all done bar the cleanup. Kind of ignored Mortarion up until round 5, and I got Bring It Down and I was able to kill him. And I think Jack only had 1 squad of Death Shroud with the Lord of Contagion left by the end of the game, because then, you know, I cracked into him all over. My Deathwing Knights had barely done anything. There was 13 of them still alive by the end of the game. But we managed to get the win, and we got the win 14-6, which was a couple of points higher than what I predicted. So great, really happy with that. And all of my other teammates won their rounds. So that then gave us quite a comfortable win going into round 2. And into round 2, we were up against 40k Gaming. I was playing Ollie, who, shock horror, was on Death Guard. You're seeing a bit of a trend starting to emerge here. And so it's Purge the Foe and up against Morty's Hammer with triple Plague Burst Crawler. Basically, no one wanted it. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I can probably give you like an 8 or a 10 in this. So I'll do my best, and that should be fine. Because Purge is always like a kind of a close one if you can start killing things, which like my list doesn't struggle to do. So I was like, cool, we'll do that. Which then freed up some better matchups. So like Sam, our World Eater player for the 2nd time in a row, got into Necrons, which is like one of his best matchups. So it was like happy days. He will push. A couple of the others will push. And I'll just sort of take the blows, which is exactly the kind of the point of what I was doing. So at that point, I think I was first defender for this one, which is why I got like Death Guard or maybe Thousand Suns. But yeah, obviously I was going to be taking the Death Guard because no one wanted it. So as I say, Purge, it was the classic Morty's Hammer, so triple Heavy Blight Drone, triple of the... I don't think it was triple actually. I think it was 2 Mephitic Blight Haulers, 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, 2 Lords of Contagion, 9 Death Shroud in 3 units, some Poxwalkers. Don't think there was any Spawn this time. Trying to think if there was anything else. No, don't think so. I think that was everything. It was crazy talking about those lists because there's just so much in there, and they need to go up like 250 points. easily. So did I go first? I think I went first. Yes, I did go first. So even worse, I'm going first on Purge the Foe. And I have to just sort of start prepping what I need to do to be able to kind of push him as hard as I can. Vindicator stays off the board, 1 unit of Deathwing Knights in reserve. I'm like, cool, okay, that should be fine. So essentially, I just had to try and bait out the drones, and one of my poor old Deathwing Knights units ended up being incredibly sacrificial to draw out some Death Shroud and all of the drones into a particular position. And then, my God, did the ones that came in from reserve just absolutely clean house. They just went through the drones like they were nothing. The Vindicator just slaughtered a drone and then started focusing on some of the other Death Shroud. I had some Death Shroud drop in my backfield and get the Intercessors, picked up the Intercessors but weren't able to consolidate onto my objective, at which point Azrael turned around and just picked up the unit for fun. It was crazy. The amount of sixes I rolled for that was just like, it was, the Emperor was very much with me in that one. So I'm not going to dwell too much on that game. Ollie was a lovely opponent, but it's Mortarian's Hammer Death Guard, so it's not like the most interesting experience to talk about it. We're all reasonably familiar with this kind of list, I think, at this point. He was mortaring me the whole time. He was trying to drop in Death Shroud in nasty positions, and I just kind of had to focus on the out positioning of that. And it was close. I think there was about 6 points in it. And if Ollie had scored his challenger card, then it would have been a draw. But I just managed to sneak it out. Also, get rid of challenger cards; they're shit. I managed to sneak it out and get an 11-9. So I was really pleased with that because honestly, I was expecting to lose. I did get the call halfway through the game, oh, we might need you to push. I remember just turning to my captain, Paul, and just being like, I am playing Death Guard on Purge. There is no way I can push this. I'm sorry. But it was fine. We got the 11-9 and the rest of the teammates managed to pull out wins apart from our Necrons into EC. That did take a very narrow loss. So when you have two blunters, one has a win and one has a narrow loss, that's usually a good sign, and it was, and we took the round quite comfortably. So super positive. I think it was about 64 to 30 something. So really, really good round. Then we went into the Sanguine Spanners, and they're not a team that I've played before, but they're always one that I've kind of spotted at ITTs doing well. I think they're a bit of a sleeper team because I haven't heard as much about them previously, but they are an extremely high quality team, probably a little bit like Crow Team 6 in that, people probably don't look at us as a team that can go and win that tournament, but I mean, we managed to pull out a couple of 4-1s this season. So it's like, there's, and it's a nice spot to be in. And I think the Sanguine Spanners are a real good team. I was up against Cal, who was on his Lords of Dread list, which Chaos Knights that he just shadow rounded the Leeds Super Major with, which I also did a video on of my experience of Leeds a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago now. And we were playing on Hidden Supplies, Search and Destroy, which I do not really like. I don't like Hidden Supplies. It's a bit of a crappy mission. But that is by the by. Those Lords of Dread, my God, they are good. That just random, like any phase, like, I'm going to sticky this, and if you don't put 5OC on it, you're in trouble. And I'm like, oh, on a mission where home doesn't count, and we need to sort of get at each other. Oh, poo. So that was rough. I went first, which is, again, very, very rough on Hidden Supplies. You always want to be going second. And at that point, on turn one, he picked up his big knight, his like big knight, and dropped that on his expansion objective because I wasn't able to quite get close enough and just blew up an ATV with it. So that, okay, let's commit everything. Let's see how much damage I can do to it because I've got Tempting Target. If I can take a reasonable number of wounds off of this vehicle, and then I can pile into that carnivore and take that down. At that point, I'll be able to steal that objective and be in a really good spot where I can then push on, kill that big knight, and then take on the others as they come across. So Vindicator comes in. And Vindicator gets 5 unsaved wounds through. And I'm like, okay, here we go. We're cooking. He's used the -1 damage strat. And I'm like, okay, not amazing, but this is still like going to be a good chunk of damage. I rolled 3 1s and 2 2s and did 5 damage. Yep. That kind of summed up the game there and then, where then everything that kind of could go wrong started just going wrong. Chaos Knights just have so many like powerful resources that just go through Death 3 Knights. If you roll average on your 4-ups, you're just going to lose them. And it was fine. Like the Gatling Cannon Chaos Knight was doing nothing to Death 3 Knights. I think it did like 3 damage from its 36 shots. But the Combat Knights are just so good. And the fact that you can get fights first on a big knight, I was just like, oh, God, okay. So I was just like, okay, cool. I just need to scrap for every point I can. So that's what I did. And I focused on trying to keep it as close as possible. I knew I was going to lose towards the end of the game, especially since Cal had gone second. And I managed to get a 4 points out of it. So it was 16-4 to Cal. So very comfortable win to him, to be honest. But luckily, our World Easter player Sam had bailed me out down the other end by getting a 20 into Space Wolves. So not a very good round to be one of the Emperor's finest, really, into the Forces of Chaos, because both the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves took quite heavy losses. But overall, the team really, really performed. And we're able to get a great score. Cal was lovely. I was in an absolutely vile mood because I had a horrendous headache and was feeling really rough. At one point, I thought I was going to throw up. I think if it was singles, I probably would have conceded quite a bit earlier. But I kept on going, Cal, I'm so sorry that I probably look like the grumpiest man alive. But this is why, bless him, he was lovely about it. So really good dude, incredibly talented player as well. And hopefully I'll get another game with him at some point. Maybe even be at the LGT Invitational if we get lucky, because that'll be good fun. Ideally, not this sort of outcome though, if I can avoid it. But yeah, Sanguine Spanners, we managed to win the round narrowly. And it turns out that 4 points did matter because the 20-0 that Sam earned and the 4 points that I managed to get meant that it wasn't a draw. So really, really pleased with that. Again, your role as a blunter isn't always to win. Sometimes it's just to stop them getting 20. So I was pleased, but also like, oh, that sucked because I got absolutely hammered. And it was a tough game, and a tough loss to swallow. So going into round 4, we get Carnage, who I've already said are the eventual winners. So you can imagine we don't win this one. And I was up against Brett, who was a really lovely player, really lovely guy, playing his Grand Coven Thousand Suns with no Magnus, which I really liked. My God, I didn't realise that the Winged Demon Prince have 6-inch Deep Strike. That's terrifying, and especially with the enhancements suddenly. Oh wow, okay, that with the reroll abilities and all that kind of thing. Ooh, that is very tasty, especially in that Dev Doctrine. And by Dev Doctrine, I mean the Devastating Wounds Doctrine that they can do for all psychic weapons, which sort of is why Grand Coven is absolutely awesome. So we were on Linchpin Dawn of War. Shooting army against combat army on this deployment is bad. I would be shocked if this map doesn't change in the near future because, to be honest, it is not good. I think this is the only mission in the pack where I'm like, this is not quite like a slam dunk in terms of the layout because all the others are really great, but this one is poor. And I think that's partly because it's Dawn of War, so like I think I would probably just like rip this mission up and just completely redraw it for LGT, but equally I'm not a ref. So yeah, I got a little bit brutalized because there was just no way that I could hold primary. I managed to like put some respect on the score in round 3 because I was able to get all of my secondaries, sort of cut through a good number of his units and sort of get into him and like force his hand for a little bit. But my goodness, the damage output and you know, essentially having Oath because of the spell to give full rerolls, and then Doom Bolt, then extra AP, and re-rolling all their wounds on objectives, and obviously you've got to go stand on objectives, but those objectives were wide open. it was just rough. It was so difficult. And going first was even worse. Because at least if I go second, I can play a little bit more defensively, and I can let him try and bait me out. But he really gets to dictate the pace of the game because I have to run at him, but I can't quite get far enough forward on that particular mission. And at that point, it's just a bit like going over the top in World War One. I just get gunned down. And that's exactly what happened. Deathwing Knights were dying like they were nothing. It was a tough one. But it was a good fun game. So like 15 minutes in, one of the refs came around and was like, well, you really should be playing on a clock because you're undefeated. It's like, yes, we should, but we both didn't have a clock on ours. And then Brett was able to go and find one. And I think we were in round 4. And poor old Brett had about 9 minutes left on his clock. I had about half an hour or 20 minutes. I can't remember which one it was. But it was half an hour because then, it was half an hour. So he had 9 minutes left. So he is really under the cosh in rushing. So I just picked up the clock and turned it off. And I was like, honestly, I would prefer for us to have a good game and for you to be able to relax and focus on playing and talking and everything like that. Because when 1,000 Suns players going really quick, it's really rough for them because they can't fully explain what they're doing and there's so many nuances to what they're doing. So as a player experience from my perspective, it's not ideal. So I was just like, no, I'm not going to clock you out. It may be the correct thing to do, but I don't care enough. Ultimately, I knew that Brett was going to win that game. And even if it meant that we didn't draw, I highly doubt we would have come even close to winning or drawing that round. But just on the score of my game, because our Necron player, poor old Dit's got 20-0'd by their Knights player. But I was like, that's not a way that I would like to win this game. And Brett had been a lovely opponent. I've always said that the only time I would clock someone out is if it's egregious and I've not had an overly good time. And I don't think it was egregious. Yes, I had significantly more time left, but also I have significantly less resources, and Brett has to explain all his resources to me a lot on his time. So just in terms of that's more of a comment on sportsmanship and things like that, and maybe you don't need to agree with me in terms of how I dealt with that, but I wasn't going to clock him out. I would feel that you don't win a game if you win by clocking someone out when they have played at a good pace, and he had played at a good pace. So just kind of a bit of a comment on that sportsmanship. And Brett was a great opponent, and I've commented on their Facebook congratulating them on the win and saying how lovely our round was against them, and Brett said that he would love to play me again. So that's always my main thing, that my opponent says I would love to play you again. So really pleased with that, but did end up losing 4-16, and we lost that round there because the blunters kind of folded, unfortunately. So myself, and obviously I've already mentioned the Imperial Knights, just sort of going through Necrons. Poor old Ditz just bounced when he was trying to deal with them, and it didn't end up too well for him. I think our Death Guard player narrowly lost to Plague Legion, which is a really cool list, by the way, at the moment. Very interesting blunter for teams. And then our World Eater player Sam Drew and Darren, I think, on Drakari narrowly beat Death Guard. So really good round. The Carnage guys are lovely. Really, really good time. Really good group of guys. And definitely lots to learn, and it was interesting seeing how they communicate as well. So lots of learnings for us, which is good because we have to bear in mind that we're still a reasonably young team. This is only my second season. It's only a lot of the guys only their second season. So it was good. It was good. It was a good game. Really, really good game. And all power to the Carnage guys for then going on and winning the whole shooting match. So finally, we go into Napalm Gaming's first team. And I was reunited with my lovely round 5 opponent from South Coast Super Major, Ash, who is a phenomenal guy. So lovely. Always gives me a massive hug. Always greets me with a big old smile and a laugh. Just, incredible dude. And as soon as I saw that we'd got Napalm, I was like, I'm so happy, because if that's, as the captain, Ash's energy, this is just going to be a great round, and it's going to be the kind of round where we can have that moment where we can both kind of go, yeah, we just had quite a rough game, because they played Glasshammer, who are obviously amazing guys as well. Funnily enough, also our sponsors. And the Glasshammer guys went on an absolute tear. But Napalm and our team were both feeling a little bit like, oh, okay, that was a rough round. So it was lovely to have that moment where we can go, cool, okay, we know we're going to have a fun game. And I get Death Guard, Virulent Victorium, for the third time. And I was up against Matt. Matt was lovely. We had a really great game, really fun game. I got a nasty Leonin aggression off into him early game, where I was able to pick up some spawn with my judi, and then use that to kind of like push on. And then he heroiced with a carnivore, which then opened it up for me to charge it with some Deathwing Knights and pick that up. So even though I went second, which is great on this mission. It's so good on this mission. I then played quite aggressively, and we ripped chunks out of each other. I think I had like 3 Deathwing Knights left. I had very few resources, but I was able to pick up, I think, his entire army. And the nice thing was, because we tore each other apart very quickly. Some of the highlights were a Vanguard vet getting 2 wounds through onto Typhus, and then managing to drag him down with 1 failed save. The judi just surviving for forever. Big old Plague Marine blob being eviscerated by Azrael was a rather nice moment. Overall, it was just a really solid, fun game. Really enjoyed myself. Matt had a great time. He was far too complimentary of me in terms of how I'd done as well. But it was great, and it was nice to have some moments where we started chatting about it, rather than just going, oh, okay, so we're just going to do blah 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 blah. Then we'd start talking about why something might be advantageous to the other one, and why maybe it'd be better if he did this, or maybe it'd be better if I did that, and that kind of conversation was really good. And I like those kinds of games where you can be a little bit more interactive with your opponent and things like that, and we both just had a really good time. So it was a lovely way to sort of close out the day. We had some pairings that we were sort of very happy with. In that round, I was able to get a 17-3 in this one, and I saw it early, so it was good to sort of get that on the books. Our Death Guard player, Paul, was being really pressed by Necrons, which Ash was playing, but he managed to bring it back to just a 12-8 loss. So that was really positive. And then I think our Drakari player, Darren, absolutely popped off into Nid Monsters. Turns out Haywire can kill monsters too if you just roll 6s. So that went exceptionally well for him, and he got a good win. Sam, I can't remember what Sam played into. I think it was Knights maybe, and did well. And Ditz went into Dark Angels with the Lion. And that Canoptic Court, it was sort of based on the Canoptic Court list that had beaten me at Leeds. And he was able to pull out a narrow win, but the Lion did sort of go a little bit mental and start chopping through things that they were meaning nothing, which is quite entertaining. But yeah, so we managed to win that round. We finish 4 wins, 1 loss. Really, really pleased with the score. Well done to Team Sigil and Carnage for making it through to the finals, and then obviously Carnage for winning it. Well done to the wonderful Swindon Tacticians for getting 3rd place as well. We got 6th. It was all round a really good tournament, really fun, well run. Both refs that were working were incredible. The stream looked like it was really good. I didn't get to go on the stream, and I didn't get interviewed because they did the pairing just as I was about to go on to interview. So they released me to go back to my team and start planning for our round 2. But it was really good. Hopefully I'll sort of get on stream for London. And I don't want to be negative about Dark Angels, but I can't see myself in the current form picking up Dark Angels again. because the game into Thousand Suns and Chaos Knights, I just felt that even if I played the perfect game, and not saying I did, but even if I did, I don't think I can win that. And the Death Guards were just such hard slogs, that I just don't think I don't feel enthused to play Dark Angels. Deathwing Knights die far too easy. There's so many things that just die far, far too easy. So I'm going to jump off them for a little bit, and I'm going to look at Blood Angels, because I think Blood Angels are really cool, really fun. I can't really fit them in my case, which is quite entertaining. But I just think it's a bit naff for Dark Angels right now. And we really need some help in the slate, especially if we are going to start losing Oath, or we look to detachments that only we can use, like with Marine Codex 2.0. We need some serious help. The entire Codex supplement basically needs a rewrite, because it's just not good. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen. It's not a good position for Dark Angels to be in. And there needs to be changes. There needs to be significant changes, because we're in a bit of a rough position. And it sucks. And you can probably hear in my voice that I'm not overly happy, saying all of that and sort of recording this, because it's negative, and I hate negative. But yeah, it was a tough outing for the Dark Angels, and I cannot see myself playing them at LGT, and particularly the Invitational, if they stay the way they are. So anyway, I hope you have enjoyed, though. Massive thanks to our sponsors, Glasshammer, Terrain Forge, Trident Futureworks, and for the team in general. Thank you so much for watching. We do massively appreciate it. Go check out our socials and all that good stuff. And remember, stay loyal, even if it's to another angel for a little bit. All right, have a wonderful evening, everyone, and goodbye.